All right, so this is a video by Crabman Jones that was made almost 6 years ago here upcoming in November, okay? And we're gonna go over this because I just watched this yesterday, and because I come back to this video every once in a while, and it's just insane to think that like pretty much like 80 or so percent of this video of everything he says still holds up today with Hypixel. So I imagine if you click this video, we're going to probably talk about, the current state of Hypixel. But I will say that things definitely have changed, but we're just going to kind of go through this video and we'll talk about what has and what kind of has stayed the same. All right. We're not going to watch the whole thing. We'll just kind of skip around here because I know the intro is kind of about like ranked skywars and everything like that. So this part isn't really relevant, but he'll make some other statements that we're going to go over here in a little bit. So
really bad. By the way, I'm kind of elaborating on some for segments of time. I'd say anywhere between 30% to 50% that you were just flat out flown to full speed. He flies across the entire map. There's no restrictions. He b-hops on you. I'm not even really including just the flat out people that are blatantly cheating, whether it be KB modifications, cranked up range on their hits. That is pretty much every single game in Gold Division. Gold Division, keep that in mind. This is Gold Division. Back in the day, Gold Division was not.
So I'm going to pause it here because I just, I was going to let him say that. So anyway, basically the context of this video, because it was 2019, is that he's talking specifically about ranked Skywars cheaters, everything like this. But I'm going to take what he just said there and kind of apply it to 2025 days, Hypixel and the anti-cheat and prediction anti-cheat and everything like that, okay? So basically, what he just said was that, talking about the cheating problem, everything like that, okay? So my comment to that is, although Hypixel has obviously worked on the anti-cheat and it, in prediction-based stuff like that, you won't get like blatant hoppers or people that will b-hop like what he just described right there. Like there obviously has been like, I don't know, like, I guess if I had to guess, maybe like an 80 or 90 or like 70% reduction in like that. Okay, maybe not 70. That's still 30%. But anyway, let's say like there's like a 90% like drop in like actual blatant cheaters that were hopping because of prediction anti-cheat. Okay, let's just assume that's true because I'm not Hypixel, I don't have the data, so we're just going to use that as an example. Okay, so you cannot deny the fact that they introduced this prediction anti-cheat and it did pretty much not 100% solve, but it wiped out most of the b-hopping issue. Okay, I feel like we can all kind of agree on that, right? So there would be an improvement there. I would say probably now, there's still obviously cheaters, and you could probably argue, because again, I don't have data, but you could probably argue that because clients like Drip, Vape, Slinky, or anything like that, that's like kind of popular right now, more people probably have access to buy them. More people have probably realized that like these clients aren't going away. The server, they have modules that are pretty much forever going to bypass Hypixel. Like you have like auto clicker that's always going to bypass, you have like aim assist that's always going to bypass, you have all these things that are pretty much always going to bypass. So the cheater problem is either the same, or even I would argue probably more, because of all those factors I just listed before, than what it was before, in what is it, 6 years ago or whatever, in 2019. Okay, so although you have less of the blatant hoppers in a game mode like Skywars, UHC, Bed Wars, or whatever, and I mean, there could be, because I don't play those game modes, I usually play Duels, Pit, and Skywars, at least in the past like recent years. But anyway, that aside, there might not be blatant hoppers there, but the amount of modules you can use for closet cheating, quote unquote closet cheating, because you blatantly closet cheating could be something like or not closet cheating, you being blatant in 2025 would be something like maybe using lag block hit, or some sort of something like that, where it's like it's not full on hopping, you're using like 100% jump reset 100% jump reset velo, to where like you're essentially taking zero knockback. Like these things have evolved to where like you being blatant is just like the abuse of legit modules, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Nothing. And it frankly still isn't. The fact that even in Gold Division, which is, it's
We're gonna skip
actually
here a little
pretty
bit.
well developed, it can be in ranked,
Again, he's still
even when I
talking
was
about
playing
ranked
through the
Skywars.
first 10 seasons, but not probably going to get caught cheating. And yeah, they'll lose the account
Okay, here
because they
we'll go
suck
back
ass
here.
at the game for days, weeks. Truthfully, it has become normal. low,
It will start
like
about right here.
10%, 5%. Once you get into the masters, that's when you started to see actual cheaters in back in the day. But now it's in gold, like I've said. Truthfully, it is
Okay, so he's about to make a point here, so we're gonna play this out, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
become normal to just cheat on Hypixel. And honestly, I'm not even mad with the people that are cheating. If it is so easy to acquire an account and just blatantly cheat for days, weeks, the entire season on end in any game mode basically on the server, especially with some of the new clients that clearly have full bypass of Watchdog, I don't even blame them. Like, some of them are doing it because they suck ass at the game, and some of them are doing it because it's so easy, they have fun doing it. Because there's really no penalty. Yeah, sure, eventually they're probably going to get caught cheating. And yeah, they'll lose the account. They're coming right back. When Watchdog originally came out...
Okay, so basically, I mean, what everything he just said is still true today, right? It's actually insane that it like, for me personally, back when I like started closeting in 2019, right? I remember, so it started out as I bought Vape V3, and I used it only in single player because like I was just kind of curious, like what, like, you know, like a ghost client or cheats or whatever, you know, like, because I think the free cheats back then would be like worse than, like, it was a blatant client, you know, like it's kind of like boring because, you know, blatant scaffold. I mean, like you do that like pretty much for like 10 minutes and you're like done, right? I remember buying a ghost Vape V3, like, you know, just essentially a ghost client, right? It was my first time paying for a cheat, right? And I was just kind of curious. I just always use it in single player, everything like this, yada yada yada, right? But again, what he just said was that, like, it's just, you don't get caught, and when you do, it might be after like 2 years of cheating your sack off or something like that. And then, so like, what, you cheat for 2 years, gain all these stats in whatever mode you main or all whatever, right? And then you get banned for 30 days. You know, like, that is like just a no-brainer, worthwhile investment, you know what I mean? And like, even nowadays, like, you could closet cheat, like how hard he was talking about earlier, or how hard I was talking about earlier. And I mean, like, you have a higher chance likely now to get banned, but like, you could essentially do the same thing that he just said in 2025, and there's like essentially no difference. Granted, you're not like blatantly auto blocking or like fake lagging or like just like having like very obvious modules. You could do like auto clicker, maybe aim assist. You could probably main silent aura with like low angle or like aim speed or something like that, and just pretty much mimic a legit player, or like at least somebody who's good at the game legit or something like that, and you would be undetectable. Because as long as you're not doing the blatant stuff, or like being sussy, or like being what would you call it, like a top of weekly or daily or something consistently, and like dual Skywars, better, you know, whatever the leaderboards, where staff are like, okay, I've seen this guy for the past like 3 weeks. He's always got, you know, where you put a target on yourself essentially, like for staff to look at you. As long as you're not doing that, I don't see why they'd ban you. And honestly, it would be surprising if they banned you. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy.
Everyone was so excited, like, oh my god, this is finally it. We finally have an anti-cheat. And we quickly...
Actually insane, though. We're going to skip this part, I think, because he just talks about the anti-cheat being not as good as how everyone should be, or how everyone else's was.
How can you even call it an anti-cheat when it can't pick up people flying at light speed across the map? I even played solo today, and I was still flown to, and...
So I guess I'll just mention it because I was going to skip over it, but I was just kind of see like what he was talking about. Anyway, so I think the argument, now this isn't me defending Hypixel or anything like that, but I think the argument people have made was that their anti-cheat is, or at least was, but I don't know why it wouldn't be still be this way. That's like kind of like modular, I think was the word used, and like you can like enable and disable certain checks, and that you they had like a lot of things to account for, and like they really wasn't trying to do false flags or anything, you know, like all those, like, basically the point is there's so many variables and factors that made that played a role into what checks they enabled on what game mode and for what thing, where like there would probably be a bypass that was found, like for example, what is it, in the pit or something, that's like it was in the pit, it was using the launch pads, where like those would disable the like fly check because of how it worked, or like in something like what was the other one, quads, to where like you would fly around the map to your banner, something like that, that because you're flying on the server, obviously if they had checks enabled, you would be spamming alerts, if not just getting banned. So it'd be something like that where they disable it, and because it's disabled, somebody figured out that, okay, well, if I use the launch pad and they have that check disabled, well, now I'm allowed to fly around the map. I think that is the argument that was used, if not something like that. And I think, nowadays, because the video was made 6 years ago, nowadays they've gotten better about having checks disabled, but like not having a full bypass in that way. Um, I think recently, as in like maybe the past 6 months to a year and a half or something like that, um, there was a bypass in pit, like what I just said with that launcher or something, right? But it got like patched. I don't know what the patch was, but it's something like that. So obviously they're doing something, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's
And B hopped on. Probably game is pretty low, but still the fact too.
You don't know what's required to make an anti-cheat.
No, obviously I don't. I'm a player and YouTuber on the server. Why would I be responsible?
That's accurate. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, so again, what he just said here is kind of like what I'm going off of, and I guess I should have just let it play. But it's just really hard for, I think, him to understand, or normal people to understand kind of how like this stuff works. And I don't know how any of it works, but what I just told you was just kind of like just me making like just kind of like guesses, or like educated guesses, or like just kind of inferences based on what I already know. But even then, if you're not like either the server admin, client developer, or like somebody who works with the code directly of like the game source or anything like that, which I don't, by the way, I can't exactly pull data or like give you specifics on things that I couldn't, I don't know anything about, basically, is what I think he's trying to say, and what I was also saying at the same time.
Not have those resources, and B, want to use integrity of the game. It should be step one without any thought. They should be creating an anti-cheat.
Okay, so his point here, and I really should let it play the whole thing, but the issue is, because I don't want this video to be too long, the point he's going to be making here is that like there should be essentially no cheaters on Hypixel, with how big of a team they have and the resources they have and money and all that stuff available. And yeah, that sounds good on paper, but I think the issue is because of how Minecraft itself has been coded. You're kind of comparing a game like I think maybe he used Valorant as an example. I don't remember. Like, no, that wasn't out then. But he's basically comparing a game like Valorant, which has like a client-side anti-cheat, as all normal FPS games do, Fortnite or anything like that, right? But he's basically comparing a client-side anti-cheat that's developed by the same company, that's bigger, yada, 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 all that stuff, to Hypixel, where they don't even own the game. There's no client-side anti-cheat. The only thing they can do is a server-side anti-cheat, right? And just stuff like that. And because, like I said before, I don't read code, so I'm not gonna tell you things that I'm not gonna tell you statements for sure that I don't know about, right? But I feel like that also plays a factor into it, probably more than what he just said there of the resource things. So yeah.
That is good enough to handle this fine, but I play a whole bunch of other games, and
yeah, see, this is the point
we're
he's
so
making there.
numb to it in Minecraft that it's nothing. It's just another day. It's just another that level. You can't compare Hypixel to that. No, you can't, but at the same time, there are servers that have 1/1000th of the player count that have anti-cheats that you can't even get away with a little bit of reach on. Do you think?
Yeah, so again, because he just mentioned it here, I guess I'll just talk about this. So I think what he was probably referring to, because he didn't mention it by name, but he's probably referring to practice servers like Mineman Club, where like the only thing you really could use, at least back then, was probably maybe an auto clicker. And if it was reach, it'd be like less than 3.1. It'd be like 3.05 or something like that. You know what I mean? I think that's probably, or most likely, what he was referring to, right? And I think in that situation, it is a strict anti-cheat, yes. I don't want to use the example or like bring in variables as like, oh, it's a 1.7 server, or it was a practice server, not a minigame server, because I don't think that's relevant to the point he's trying to make, although that's probably factors that play a large hand or something like that, right? But I mean, like, the point that I'm trying to make is that I feel like there's always going to be false flags, and to make something that is as strict on as an anti-cheat as something like AGC, to where like they don't want you to use anything. I'll use this an example. I'll use an auto clicker, as reach is kind of easy. So for auto clicking, They want it to where you can't auto click, but they also don't want to false flag legit players that can maybe butterfly click or like mimic an auto clicker. You know what I mean? Like that's just kind of the balance that you're trying to make there is you want to get an anti-cheat that stops the auto clickers, but also doesn't flag the legit people that can butterfly click legit anyway. So if you're butterfly clicking like 19-20 CPS consistently because you're just good at butterfly clicking and you get banned, I mean, that's just like, that's again, that's not the player's fault or anyone's like that. That's not our responsibility to kind of have to like play around the server's rules. But again, because of how this game's made, you know, I imagine that's just a balancing act they have to do. You know what I mean? So it's like maybe we allow the auto clickers at, but because we're allowing these doesn't mean. Here, hold on, let me rephrase that. So we're going to take the option of not banning legit people, but we're going to, as a side, what do you call it? As a side effect to that, auto clickers allowed to bypass. You know what I mean? I think that's what he was trying to say there.
You think those guys have infinite amount of money to develop an anti-cheat? This is slightly conspiracy theory-ish. Step back and think about why Hypixel hasn't really addressed this issue, or at least made an active attempt to somewhat resolve the problem. Is it because the revenue to the point where they're not that far-fetched? And I wish I didn't think like that.
Okay, so basically what he was saying here, and I should play it in full because I'm making a comment on it. But the only reason I'm not is because this isn't really relevant to the video I'm making. But essentially the point he's making here is that, like, you know, as long as Hypixel's making the money and like cheaters are buying ranks and all like that, you know, that kind of stuff, right?
But it's frankly kind of realistic.
And he did say it was also like kind of like just out there like conspiracy theory thing. So I don't really, not gonna make a comment on that
because it doesn't matter. We're still making the money. Now to wrap this rant up, let's come to the main problem currently on Hypixel.
Okay, so this is like kind of this. The last like 3 minutes of this video is like more relevant to the video I'm making here.
Not hackers, but Skyblock. Skyblock is a great game. I'm not even trying to go at the game mode, so relax. All right, stop typing that comment. I've put countless hours into Skyblock. It's a great game, tons of stuff to do. That's not the point. The point is that Skyblock became the server's biggest cash cow they've ever had. There was more people joining the server and more people buying ranks than ever before. And it doesn't take a genius to realize this. So what did Hypixel decide to do? They decided to completely neglect all of the other games on the server. We're talking 20 other games, maybe more, I don't want to count. And in exchange, they would only update Skyblock and only address Skyblock and only care about Skyblock. It makes sense in a business standpoint. Why would you really focus on games that aren't even doing a fraction as well as your main game, right? But because of this approach, which is very clear, I mean, they're...
Okay, so I'm going to stop it here. So at least back then, and maybe even now in recent years, maybe not 2025, but like maybe 2023, 2024, and maybe the first half of 2025, you could argue that this kind of what he just said there is kind of the same thing that's been happening. Although the difference is that because Skyblock's kind of slowing down a little bit because it's a little bit further, obviously, in its development since whenever it released, right? Obviously other game modes have gotten updated since then, right? But as a whole, what he just said with like the business thing and, you know, it being the biggest game mode on the server, I mean, yeah, it does make sense why they would focus on that more. But I think they've also realized, which is probably why they're updating other game modes now, like Skywars Duels or anything like that, even after it's been an extended period amount of time. I mean, they still are getting updates. And like actual updates, not things that are like kind of like I mean, bug fixes are good too. Like I don't know why people like to dunk on bug fixes. I think those are like arguably more important than others. But anyway, at least, you know, it's just they're getting updated more. And I think that probably has to do with because of Skyblock's slowed down development because, you know, it's not in the early stages anymore, you know.
There are game modes, even Skywars, one of the most popular games still on the server. Even that hasn't gotten a major update in, what, half a year? Maybe more? I don't know. Yeah, it gets some new maps. That's not an update. That's just someone building a new map and putting it in the game. That's not an update.
It's just crazy to think that Skywars back in 2019 not getting updated in 6 months was like the end of the world, where I don't know this for sure, but I feel like I've heard people say that the Duels update that just happened, like not even that long ago, hasn't been updated in like 4 years or something like that. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of funny to mention.
Update. And again, the counter argument that I always hear to games not getting updated is, well, what would they update? If you think you're so smart, tell us what they should put into the game. I don't know. Again, that's not my job. I'm not running.
So about that point, I mean, it is true. It isn't like anyone's job to tell the what do you call it, like the game development team or like whatever to how to update their game. But at the same time, I do think it's probably more helpful to, instead of complaining about Skywars doesn't getting updated, Duels isn't getting updated, you can I think you can make suggestions and like kind of give those game designers or the staff team ideas on what they should do, or like what the community is kind of looking at right now or what they would want. But to literally tell them how to and he's probably, I don't think he means this literally, but to essentially tell them how to update a game, it's not really our job. And there's probably multiple reasons as to why. What was it? It was the Duels, before the Duels update. It was probably like a couple months, maybe in like May or April of this year, where like, who was it? Somebody made a forum post that essentially like laid out the Duels update that we wanted, or the community wanted, everything like that. But you know, like obviously on paper it'd be easy to just like implement that. It's like, okay, well, the community basically made the update for us. We just have to go ahead and implement it, right? Basically what I'm trying to say is like, I'm sure there's probably reasons, whether it's legal or like ethical or whatever, as to why they didn't or can't literally take your forum post and implement it one-to-one. You know, again, I don't know this for sure, but I'm just taking a guess that if Hypixel were to take that forum post and literally copy it like one-to-one, or at least like 95% or 90%, that like for some reason they could be like liable in some lawsuit to be like, well, I did technically do this, and you know, they put it on their server and I didn't get any credit for it, yada yada. I mean, like, it's probably something like that, to where that's like kind of stopping them, that's like legal or something like that. But again, you know, us as the players, we don't know that because that's not our responsibility, you know what I mean? But like, if I had to guess, I figured it'd be something like that, you know what I mean?
Running the server. I am a player on the server voicing a concern about the games getting stale. And frankly, if the games were stale, that would be one thing. I would honestly be okay with that at this point. But most of them are completely and utterly broken and riddled with bugs. I'm sure you could get a representative from each of the major games on this network. They could create an actual novel filled with important bugs that could be fixed, but none of them have been. I know personally a lot of people have stopped playing UHC on Hypixel because between the crazy amount of hackers and
okay, so I'm gonna skip this part after this. Yeah, so the bugs thing, I think that's probably or most likely still true. I mean, there's been updates to Duels and Skywars since what was it? I want to say maybe a year and a half or however long ago, right? That I played before, like recently now. Where there probably was a time where what he just said, there was just bugs and bugs and bugs and all that, you know, stuff like that. But like, I think bug updates are useful. I do think they should be probably more often than what they were in the past, assuming they are working on trying to do that more often. Because I do know, and this I was gonna say this is expected, but this should just be the bare minimum. If Hypixel releases a Skywars update, Duels update, Bed Wars update, any kind of game mode update, and they release a bug fix patch like maybe a week later or a couple days or 2 weeks later, you know, in like kind of a short enough time span, that is like the bare minimum of things that they have to be doing. I'm talking like we should get maybe bug updates, maybe like every 3 months to 6 months, and maybe like a content update, maybe like yearly, you know what I mean? Like, again, like I just said, it's not my responsibility to lay out what they should be doing with their server as their, you know, their management team and, you know, the people that run it, obviously. But like, I feel like a lot of people can agree that we should be getting bug updates at least every 6 months, if not like 3 to 6 months. And anything like that. Because, you know, bugs come up, some stuff happens, things aren't intentional or intended, or things get found out that aren't intended. And I do think like it should just be, I don't want to say bare minimum, but I feel like it would be a really nice touch to have bug updates, no matter how small. It could be 3 things, 3 major things, 3 small things. every 3 to 6 months, and then like maybe a content update every year. I think that alone just kind of shows that like, yeah, we pay attention. We look at the bug reports. We've patched these things, just kind of stuff like that.
Every single game, and the copious amount of almost game-breaking bugs that have not been addressed from an integrity standpoint. And what can this company do to solidify holes and problems with the game that they make? I don't look at it from how can we make the most money, which is, I guess, my own flaw because I'm a consumer and not a business, so I don't really
nothing to agree about there. That's just
care how well Hypixel
right
does.
statement.
I mean, I want them to succeed, obviously, so they can stay a server.
All true,
but
all
clearly
true.
not to the point of maxing profit. I'm just so sick of all the excuses.
Yeah, again, like what he just said, it's you care enough because you want them to succeed, what he just said, but like also not to where we're maximizing profit and forgetting everything else. Because I feel like in the short term, it's like obviously this is like, you made this much money, but in the long term, I mean, you have game modes like Sky Wars, which are just dying, and they've made recent adjustments to like try to reverse that. But for the longest time, it wasn't a essentially declining state, and I mean, it still is, right? But yeah, I mean,
that we've been given over the years, some of which I've mentioned and some of which I haven't. If it isn't about the money, if it isn't about the lack of resources, fucking prove it. Like, do something. Multiple games that I've mentioned as it stands are absolute embarrassments. They could be so good if given the time of day and the effort to fix. When it's all said and done, Skyblock isn't the sole reason for these problems, but it's also not the only game on this server. At least pretend like other games exist. Okay.
I do like that ending because it is still a lot of it is still kind of true, but like I said, because in recent years they have made the changes from what we've gone over already. So I don't know, that's a very, very good ending, and I do think everyone should, like I said, this was made almost 6 years ago. Like a lot of it does still kind of hold up, and I made the comments on what has changed and things like that, but I mean, yeah, that's just what it is. So the other half of this video, I guess, is to kind of show that this guy is name's Kren, and I think he's from Romania, right? He made this Sky Wars video, and it got 182,000 views 3 weeks ago. And this might be the most viewed Sky Wars video in like years, like 5 years, however long. Like it's been like a long time. I cannot tell you the last person that made a Sky Wars video in 2025, 2024, maybe even 2023 and got this amount of views. This just shows that like the interest is there. But like people aren't trying to watch the same video over and over made by different content creators. And this guy, he made this video and he got rewarded with views because it wasn't your typical every other Hypixel Minecraft video. You know what I mean? I'm not going to make a comment on like the programming part of it because I don't think that's really relevant to the point I'm making. But essentially what I'm going to argue here is that we're looking at a difference of gameplay. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is you're looking at somebody who plays on obviously later version of the game, newer version of the game or whatever, right? He's clearly on either the latest or something close to that. He's playing with shaders, default texture pack, playing with nonce. He could be, I don't even know if he's autoclay. I don't remember. But anyway, this is just like kind of like a non-POV, you know what I mean? And I didn't watch, I feel so bad. But like I don't want to bring Technoblade into this because I never watched him. I watched like maybe 1 or 2 videos. But I feel like this is what people found entertaining about Technoblade back in the day. You know what I mean? That's what it kind of seems like. It's just different. It's just a different video. I don't know. It's just that's all you can really say. It's just a different video. It's not your typical Sky Wars video. So it's not like your typical 82 star that just like rushes mid with like uses all meta kits and like, strength chains kills in mid and like, that kind of thing. Like it's not that video. And I think that's what's so appealing about it is because it's just not that, you know what I mean? guy clearly is better than the average, right? Whether that's because he's auto clicking or using scripts or whatever you want to argue, okay? But like he's clearly not bad at the game. You know what I mean? Considering what do you say? He played on like 200 ms or something like that. This is it's just insane. It's just again, I guess final point is just this is just isn't typical. Basically, is the point that I'm making. He's not using any meta kits. I think he was running interjects or something like that because he's got a potion. I think that's what it is, right? But yeah, you know, that's what I have to say there with that. But again, yeah, if you look up like Hypixel Skywars 2025 or whatever, I mean, these are all like old videos, you know what I mean? Like these are all from months ago, but they all get like no views. Hey, look, there's my video, or my short rather. But they all get no views because it's all just kind of the same thing. They all have the same thumbnail style. It's just the same video, copy and pasted. The only difference is the person making it. That's literally the only difference. But yeah, that's the thing. This was a good video, but it was a unique video, and I think this one was it got, you know, rewarded with some views relative to Forms' small channel, right? But I mean, the views were better than normal. So again, people don't really want to watch the same video over and over, basically. And I don't want to. I'm not trying to call anyone out specifically, right? But again, if you were to click on Iroh's video and kind of scrub through it, I don't even have to listen to the video to kind of tell you what he's probably talking about, which is, you know, him going over the stats, the grind that he has to do, talking about how probably insane mode fell off and how it was so good and why Skywars is so sweaty now and everything like that. You know, we're sweating our head games because we need the kills, you know, things like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's essentially what a lot of the Skywars videos are nowadays, if not all of them. So again, we're just watching this gameplay here. And if you go to, I think somebody else who I watched before was So Like too, he's still active. I think he doesn't upload very often because, you know, there's not really a lot to upload. There's not really a lot to do, you know what I mean? He's kind of doing news right now because, you know, that's kind of the move, because what are you going to do as a X leaderboard, you know what I mean? But again, if I were to click on, I don't know, maybe, I guess we'll just do this one because it's a newer video. So he's doing his intro, I imagine. We're watching the gameplay. Yep, we're watching the gameplay. We got our win. You know, we're just using meta kits, playing for the win, essentially. Editing, like this is just kind of the content for the the state of the game. You know what I mean? This is just the content, but like you can only watch this so much before it's like we're just done here. You know what I mean? Honestly, no like offense to him or Iroh or anyone we're looking at on the, you know, YouTube home thing, right? But I feel like it would probably do them better if they just kind of pre-recorded their games and then just use that as background, and then they just kind of played however they want to play, and then just do the commentary over, which is what I thought about doing. We'll do one more here. We'll do, it's So Like Iroh. I guess we'll do Forms, although I feel like this is kind of biased. These are like kind of the main three. But anyway, the point that I'm making is the gameplay of the video is the same. All three of these videos we just watched are pretty much the exact same gameplay. The only difference, like I said, is just the person making it. And maybe like a slightly different editing style. But I mean, editing can only do so much for you. You know what I mean? Like the first person who had like the fancy editing or whatever, they probably did good. But it's once everyone does it, it kind of loses that value. You know what I mean? So yeah, I imagine he's probably talking about certain kits, maybe using certain kits, stuff like that. You know, just things like that. You know what I mean? So I think I made my point. So yeah, going back to this guy and why I think this video got so many views compared to anything that these guys have made, which again, I gotta keep saying this. This isn't like a dig or a knock to them. You know what I mean? Like the content they make is fine, but I think the difference between why this video kind of blew up, if you want to be real about it, is because I think it's just a different video, and that's really what it is. The thumbnail style is different. It's just different. You know what I mean? It's not the same. The editing's not the same. The gameplay's not the same. It's just a different video. That's really what it is. So I think the solution to the whole issue with Hypixel as Hypixel's kind of overall player decline and stuff like that is to do with the content being made, because obviously we know right now the only thing that gets views for Hypixel related is like either Skyblock or Bed Wars. We both know Skyblock or Bed Wars. Sky Wars isn't getting views. Duels isn't getting views. Let's just go ahead and check that out now. This is the Duels update. Duels update. Duels update. Duels update. Duels update. Duels update. But I mean, that's to be expected because I mean, this did pretty well, I think. But that's to be expected because it just came out though. You know what I mean? But if we were to probably look at anything else in the past before the update happened, I mean, we're just not getting we're just not getting views. You know what I mean? I thought I typed in Duels update or Hypixel Duels of 2025, but this isn't really anything to do with Duels. But yeah, I'm not going to use this to kind of prove my point, but it just doesn't seem like there's really anything to make. And I'll use myself and Tencry as an example, since we're not getting it from the front page. But anyway, this will we'll go by, I guess, maybe latest or most. Actually, you know what? We'll do popular. So this is all from the span of last couple, maybe year, couple months, you know, anything like that. I think for what his channel size is, these views are decent, I think. But I feel like a lot of his videos were probably more in just like the less than 1,000 range, which is fine. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, because, you know, he has a smaller channel and stuff like that, right? But that's just kind of like the state of where the community was at, is basically the point I'm trying to make, is that, right? Thumbnails don't matter. I do like this one. I think this is a generic, not generic, but like this is a thumbnail that I would probably do. I mean, it's fine. So, but yeah, he was also probably at a smaller count. Well, excuse me, my bad. But anyway, yeah. And then if you go to like my channel too, when I made like those duels videos, let's see here. I did the gameplay videos, and then I did I think I did this one. Was it this one? No, okay, I think it was this one. I did this commentary for Sky Wars, and I was like, okay, this did a little bit better than what, you know, other stuff does. I did this video. This also was the kind of the same. I did this video, and this one popped off. So I was like, okay, this is the one where it had like a proper thumbnail, a good thumbnail like that, maybe some topics a year ago, right? So this got a decent amount of views relative to my channel size. But again, the rest of like maybe this one and this one, although yeah, it's under 1K, these videos performed good relative to my like channel subscriber count. This one did good as well. You know, stuff like that, right? This one probably could have been a little bit better, but you know, the views were still in line with, you know, most of what I was doing, right? And then I switched to kind of pot or MMC and murder mystery and stuff like that. You know, the views were still, it was still up there because it was for commentary, but it wasn't dual stuff. So, you know, it was lower on average, you know what I mean? And then I just kind of I'm not really consistent. So everything's kind of like all over the place here, because this was an unlisted video that got released. This was an unlisted video that got released. So was this one and this one. These two seem to have done okay, considering that I didn't really do anything here that was special. Some of these were just kind of filler. This one, I like this video a lot. I think this is very informational. This was filler. This one seemed to be doing okay, but that was probably maybe because it was unranked MMC or something like that. No one really does that, so that's probably why. But yeah, that's kind of like right the thing on that. But yeah, I do think, again, to go back to like the solutions, I do think the solutions to this issue is that the content creators that are currently playing, I'm not trying to call anyone out here, but like Solike or Forms or Iro or Derek or whoever's like active right now, I think they just need to kind of switch their content, or like at least kind of think about what they want to do differently. You know what I mean? Because no knock to the people themselves, I just think that this style that they've adopted was working back then. I don't think it's working anymore. I think if these people, myself included, if we want to pull, actually not even just Skywars, I think if anyone who's going to make content on Hypixel and try to like want to get viewers, because I know what Form said, I know exactly what Form said, okay? He said in I think it was this one, okay? I think he said in this video, he's trying to see if it's still possible to get YouTube ranked by just making Skywars content. This is true. I think this is true. Based on this video here, because it was so different, I think that's still possible. I don't think what he's doing right here is going to get him YouTube rank. I don't think this style of thumbnail, this style of or let me rephrase that. I don't think this style of over optimizing the editing or the thumbnails or anything like this, I don't think this is the move that's going to get anyone who makes content on Skywars or anything like that. I don't think that's going to get anyone here YouTube. Okay. I do want to, maybe they can run, myself included, maybe we can run experiments to see to kind of see how that's, and try to maybe mimic this. But the issue, like I just said, that if everyone makes a video like this, then it becomes not special. But we all have to do it in our own way, and that's kind of the content creator's job to figure out. But I don't think, I can say this with confidence, I don't think this over optimized of thumbnails and editing and titles and stuff like that, I don't think this is what's going to revive the game mode. I think content like this is probably what's going to revive the game mode. Okay, so this is a conversation I had with my friend about basically what I was just talking about. And I'm not going to read it word for word, but like essentially what I just said is what this conversation was. But there was one part of it that I'm trying to get at here, and I think it was this here. So I said, I'll read this because this is my response. I said, a good way to indicate the state of a game, or in this case, Minecraft server called Hypixel, is to look at the external content surrounding the game or server in question. If you look on YouTube and see the same video, copy and paste it over and over with the same thumbnail style and title, the views are going to naturally go down as nobody wants to watch the same video over and over. Literally, the only difference is the voice. This is what I've already said. I gave you two examples of people that made unique videos and got rewarded with viewership. This shows that the interest in the server is still there. We just got to ignite it by making original content. It's a very basic concept ratio of higher view count or higher views equals higher chance people will give the server or game mode a chance. As long as you make the game mode look fun and appealing to them, then that will attract new players, which in turn keeps the game mode alive. And assuming you have multiple content creators making unique videos, there's a higher chance that a dead game mode like Skywars can potentially grow again because of that. I'd say that most people nowadays that are playing Hypixel for the first time will be playing on 1.20 plus. So this is literally just me saying the first thing that comes to mind. Instead of making Skywars videos on 1.8, maybe make them on 1.20 and show new players that are already going to be on that version anyways. just how difficult the game mode can be, and then offer some alternative ways to playing. Examples would include bringing back trapping or just different styles of play, rather than using meta kits and rush mid and strength chain noobs as a 200 plus star that's been playing for 7 years. And again, that's what I just came up with off the top of my head. Now imagine what somebody with actual creativity could do. That's essentially like what I was trying to say earlier, right? I do think maybe that could be the move. Again, like I said, we'd have to experiment. Either me or the other Skywars duels, whoever else plays Hypixel or is uploading currently, would have to experiment with, because clearly these people like Forms, or Derek, or I don't know if they all edit their own videos. Maybe they have an editor for them, but like whoever's doing that, clearly we know the editing's not the problem. We know the thumbnail isn't the problem. We know all that. Like we can that stuff's fine. I think we already know what I think. I'm not gonna say it for like the 10th time. Maybe we need to experiment with 1.20 or just a different, just like kind of noob-like gameplay. Because I feel like anyone who watches Skywars in 2025 that doesn't already play the game is not gonna resonate with this kind of content. They're not gonna look at this content and say that this looks like a game I want, that looks fun and enjoyable, right? It looks fun and enjoyable when you're a 200 star. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. They're gonna look at gameplay like this and be like, wow, so this is what Skywars? This guy doesn't look really good at the game, and he seems to be able to get some kills here. He's making the game look fun to a non. You know what I mean? Like if I was a non and I saw this, minus the scripting part, this looks possible. This looks like something I can do. He's showing that it's okay to fall when bridging. You know what I mean? Like this is stuff that's a non or a new player is gonna look at, and this is what's gonna make him want to play the game more or the server more or anything like that. A non's not gonna watch this video, not this one, but a non's not gonna watch like some high star be sweating the game. Not saying they are sweating, but they're not gonna watch some high star sweating the game and be like, wow, I can really be this guy. You know what I mean? Or this looks fun. This looks fun to watch, not fun to play, essentially. A non might say something like, wow, this video is fun to watch and makes it look fun to play, and they might just hop on the server and play because of it. You know what I mean? That's essentially the point that I'm trying to make. So where do we go moving forward? I would say, obviously, because I have no data to back this up, so I'm just speculating, but I would imagine that Hypixel is probably looking to, in the near future, maybe that's 3 to 5 years, maybe that's 7 years, maybe that's 20, 30. I mean, like it literally could be anything, right? My guess would be probably within the next 3 to 5 years, they're probably gonna kill off 1.8 completely. They're probably gonna move their server to 1.20 or the latest version or something like that allows them to do more, right? There is going to be no reason why Hypixel just completely stays on 1.8 forever and kills the server because of it. It just doesn't make sense logically that they would do that. At some point down the road, the goal and the roadmap is for them to update the server and like get rid of and stop supporting 1.8 completely, right? And obviously the reason for this is because this allows them to not completely die off. They can make way better, maybe not way better, they can make way more and newer game modes based off of the latest version of the game rather than sticking to 1.8, which came out like in 2014 or 2013 or whatever it is. I think it was 2014. So that's obviously the roadmap. We just don't know when, but we do know it's going to happen, right? I would say, actually, I got a perfect example, is that a server like Mineman Club, okay? They released Modern Practice however long ago, and they've actually doubled their server count based on it. They didn't stop supporting 1.8. They just came out with Modern Practice, and they doubled their server count because of it. I remember when MMC used to be I think they averaged like maybe 800 players, and like occasionally, maybe on the weekends, they'd peak at like 1,000 or something like that. They literally just doubled their player count. They get like 2K now, 2.1K or something like that. That's insane. So I don't see why Hypixel wouldn't do the same thing if a smaller server like MMC, which is a practice server, by the way, a practice server mainly, can do that. Doesn't make any sense, really. But yeah, that's kind of the move, or all I have to say with that. Um, yeah, I just think that's yeah, I think they've already done it with Skyblock. Um, and I think Build Battle as well. So I mean that's just crazy to think about. But as a final note to kind of like wrap up this video, because I'm not sure exactly how long it's been. I've been doing like cuts. Anyway, as a final note to wrap this up, people have been saying that 1.7 and like pot PvP has been dead since like 2017. Okay. People have been making that claim, and obviously the videos that were uploaded recently from these two individuals obviously still do get a decent amount of views relative to their channel size. And I think the reason why is because their like gameplay is just so unique, and it's not like everyone else's, that they've been like rewarded with viewership. Like the point I was making earlier. Walkley kind of has like a kind of a, if I had to describe it, like more of like a clean play style, maybe. So let me see. I'll just give you a quick example. Like the editing, sure, we're fine with that, but his is kind of more of perfect aim, maybe. Kind of just like smooth combos, or good combos rather. Just some stuff like that, right? Because it's not even about like a render thing anymore at this point. Like everyone's got the renders, we've already got the renders down. It's just a simple of like it's a matter of gameplay and how you want to make the video, basically, right? But you could probably argue that his is the least entertaining in 2025 to watch, where it's just typical combos and that's it, right? With some editing. You could probably make that claim. But I think for ill or whatever, you just cannot you just can't deny like his, because he has like schizo sense, right? So his gameplay just based on that is why it's entertaining. You know what I mean? Just watching him flick with pearls and like do all this stuff. What is it after this? Yeah, like this is just, you just don't see this. You know what I mean? Like you can have good aim, but this is like schizo aim. You know what I mean? Like this is clearly high sense gameplay, and I think that's why a lot of people like watching it. At least that's why I like watching it, because it's just so interesting to see what you can do with high sense when you like actually have it controlled. You know what I mean? But like that again, yeah. Those are like two examples, right? Of why people say pop PvP's been dead and it still gets a decent amount of views. Because the gameplay we're watching is unique, and then because of this, you have some guy like this that uses schizo sense. You'll have people be like copycats or whatever, right? I think there was a video that somebody uploaded. I don't know why I searched that as if I'm gonna get anything. I guess we'll do cleaner. But like this is probably more in line with traditional gameplay, if anything. And PvP's evolved over years and stuff like that, but not saying this is a good or bad video or anything like that, but like the kind of the gameplay is what you would expect. You know what I mean? Like if I were to watch these videos nowadays, when I do watch, I just kind of like skip through it because I already know what to expect. There's like nothing new to watch here. You know what I mean? The only thing that's kind of new to watch, we already know how people pearl. We already know, like we just already know all this stuff. You know what I mean? There's just nothing here. Most of the time when I watch a video like this, it's to see what packs are being used and see what like new packs there are, basically. That's essentially why I watch these at this point. But yeah, that's insane. But yeah, that's kind of the closing thing here, I think. Again, jerseys. He came back after 7 months with this video, and obviously he has 60K views and he has 5K subs, and he didn't upload for 4 years, right? Because people remember that he was always legit. You know what I mean? And I guess we were just excited to see somebody come back, and I guess an old gen or a legit player, whatever you want to call it, come back and play the game. It's like if Marcel uploaded. I know he doesn't upload anymore, but it's like if Marcel uploaded after like, I think he's been inactive for a year, and like it makes like an MMC tournament video or something like that. That's probably gonna get like views. Well, I'll just throw a number out here. Let's say that gets like 200K views or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's like clearly you watch it as You know what I mean? We'll just look, right? Like, yeah, he hasn't uploaded in 11 months. He doesn't play really MMC or PvP or anything like that. He just he did modded for a little bit and tried to like, turn some stuff around, right? But like, let's say he comes back with a MMC video on like, let's just say it's modern practice or whatever. They did like a tournament and he like wins the tournament on like some like disguise. And he basically did what Jerseys did essentially. And he got like 250,000 views. Does that not say a lot? You know what I mean? Like, does that not say something? But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the whole thing here I got with that. Yeah.